While being disproportionately affected by COVID, the Black community also struck by many instances of police brutality. Add all these factors into the equation, and you'll also get the regression in the generational Black wealth gap. Tack on our broken childcare system, disparities in the education system, as well as Black maternal mortality rates, and you will see a very bleak picture for our community. However, all is not lost. There are still some gains we have made and some doors that have opened. And through this presentation, I will present some information and vehicles we can occupy in order to move us to a more equitable and just equation, one where justice is within our reach if we make the decision to work hand in hand as a united community and use the resources before us. So I want to speak to this slide. On October 12th, we had a young lady that was killed. Then March 13th of 2020, we had a young lady that was killed. Then of course, George Floyd on May 25th, 2020, and then Rayshard Brooks on June 12th, 2020. So just like that, an onslaught of civil unrest grew. And of course, this is not new. However, these items were captured and some were captured on film in terms of cell phones and posted to social media and went viral. So this created a public outcry emphasizing the importance and value of Black lives. Consequently, a global effort was to center Black justice. Businesses across the country made strategic efforts to implement diversity initiatives within their companies and corporations, as well as universities. For example, major brands changed their slogans from what could be perceived as racially insensitive in the past as well. So what exactly has Black Lives Matter accomplished? It amplified the voices of our allies, has centered Black people in imperative national conversations, shined the light on police reform, social justice, systemic racism, highlighted an increasing intolerance of institutionalized and systemic racism, caused companies to emphasize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion by creating culture opportunities, creating chief diversity officer jobs, creating offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So also from the inception of Black Lives Matter, LGBTQIA+ voices have always been at the conversation table. In addition to the many lives that have been taken at the hands of law enforcement, there have been many transgender lives taken via unnecessary acts of violence. And violence against the LGBTQIA+ community is going to be eradicated. It is imperative that they are also included in the national conversations about race, discrimination, and police violence. So where I sit as Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs and Enrollment Management at a historically Black college, we're tasked with also providing services for LGBTQIA students at our university. So activism in 2020 created key conversations across countless sectors in America. Black employment is one of them. So racism in the workplace has become intolerable. Offenses now result in disciplinary actions. My past employer in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, fired a significant number of persons for posting negative items tied to social media. So that has taken place at universities, companies, and corporations now. Gives employees the opportunity to share their lived experiences with coworkers, management, and executive leadership. Companies can make overarching statements on equality and equity now. You're seeing more statements come out from companies and corporations, as well as universities, as well as nonprofit organizations. We spoke to this where diversity officer positions are being now established and environments are becoming more inclusive. Initiatives are being implemented to hire and recruit more staff of color from HBCUs, minority serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities, as well as Hispanic serving institutions. Ensuring Black Lives Matter has now become an issue that human resource departments must ensure takes place. This has impacted Black employment in the following ways. Generally speaking, Black unemployment is always significantly higher than the national average. Case in point, in April, the national unemployment rate was 6.1 in April. However, for Blacks, it was 9.7. So these numbers clearly impacted by the pandemic. Not only were Blacks impacted by business closing during the pandemic, but Black people have suffered disproportionately, with many still suffering from the lingering effects of COVID. Because of the national conversation of Black Lives Matter, Black people can now conduct more focused searches for employment, streamlining their search efforts to organizations who place emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. In reference to justice and education, as Black Lives Matter has shined a light on racial disparities in education, amplifying the conversation on what needs to be done to ensure discrimination doesn't continue to prevent Blacks from actualizing their educational goals. So as policymakers and educators continue to fight to eliminate the inequities in education, it becomes even more important that Black people acquire as much education as possible. The more education Black people obtain, the more we will see the achievement and wealth gaps close between Black people and our counterparts. As poverty continues to make education out of reach, it is urgent for Black students to educate themselves on how to obtain funding, scholarships, and grants to attend college. So HBCUs, they're a highly viable education option now. They've always been, but now since the Vice President of these United States of America is an HBCU product, Vice President Harris attended Howard University in Washington, D.C. HBCUs are now receiving funding. They're now an institution of choice. So since Black Lives Matter, historically Black colleges and universities do too. HBCUs provide extremely supportive environments for our students. The highly exhaustive, unique networking established there at HBCUs. They offer exceptional programs, particularly in STEM fields. These educational institutions are rich in Black culture, history, and excellence. Students are exposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion through HBCU environments. In addition, the retention and graduation of undeserved, underrepresented students at HBCUs are above the rates of those at predominantly white institutions. So in conclusion, research, don't be ignorant in reference to the resources available to us, educate ourselves, attend conferences and workshops such as this, network and collaborate, use our resources to get ahead, as well as keep our skills honed, keep current with the trends in technology. As we look at the overall landscape of the state of Black America, it is evident that we have our work cut out for us. However, we are not left without hope. The Black Lives Matter movement has indeed opened up some doors. However, it will take strong community, persistence, education, and networking for us to continue to make necessary progress. Continue to exhaust these methods as we strive together to succeed. And are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Last night on CNN, as you do know, the census have been preliminary completed, and they showed us the composition of the United States of America. In fact, the white population is declining. The Black population has gone up 1%, and the Hispanic population look like above the African American population at this time. Right now, I think our biggest challenge is when they do the redistricting, because we talk about Black Lives Matter, I think that is the next fight, because when they redistrict and general managing, that they do, will ultimately affect the resources that goes into our community. What do you suggest we as people should do and can do to ensure that equal representation will be in the U.S. House of Representatives?
Yes, excellent question. Excellent points made, and you're definitely correct. So Hispanic, Latinx, or Latino, or folk outweigh and outnumber African Americans, Asians. So Hispanic is the new minority And so a significant number of institutions where I reside in terms of higher education is my focus. College and universities are developing Latino or Latina initiatives to get more Latinx folks into college and university spaces because they are the booming population, as you noted, and that is true. And I would
But let me
say
ask you a
definitely.
question. And that being said, now is these all legals or immigrants? Because I know they count everybody. So when they say
Sure.
that,
Sure. So in reference to that question, I know that I know that when the census is counting each household. And so some of those folks in those households may not have green cards, may not be US citizens, stuff to that nature, right? Because remember, they're counting households based on what you have reported when you've completed your census information. I know that when I lived in Iowa and I was a faculty member and administrator in Iowa, there was a venue where they were employing persons that were not citizens. And then the federal government got wind of that, and those plants are no longer there. So they were hiring persons that were not citizens and paying them cheap labor, essentially, to do work from sunup to sundown. And so in Iowa, I know they've cut down on a host of those plants, and they've arrested those individuals. So I say that to say, to answer your question, you're definitely correct in reference to Hispanics outweighing African Americans and Asian or two or more races or all that, right? They are their number one minority population in terms of population, populists in terms of the number of folks. However, I would say get actively engaged with your elective process and get actively engaged with your NAACP chapters and get actively engaged with the links, the boule, the girlfriends, the guardsmen, the NPHC fraternities and sororities, and the historically Black colleges to say, hey, we would like to get actively engaged and involved in terms of the redistricting in our areas and getting more folks of color in those roles or African Americans in those roles, and electing them is the first place one should start.
Very good, Dr. Hilton. Thank you so much. I do have a question. And if anyone has a question, please, feel free to ask. There's a lot of gentrification going on, especially in Brooklyn, New York. And whereas things used to be kind of, I won't say run down, there are some things that looks beautiful and all of that the Black community should fight against. And if so, would it be to our detriment? And I'm thinking about, the Black people in the community, it hindering them rather than helping them because it's pushing them out. How do you see it?
Sure. Excellent question. So I'm from Miami-Dade County, Florida. I went to college in Atlanta, did my master's in Tallahassee, and did my PhD in Baltimore, Maryland. So those that are familiar with Baltimore, Maryland know that that is taking place in Baltimore, and that is taking place in Miami, Florida, where they are gentrifying those areas, bringing economic development to those communities, as well as outpacing Black and brown folks such as ourselves and outputting us, meaning that displacing us, right, outputting us in terms of that we cannot afford to live in those locales any longer. So of course, that's to the detriment of my opinion, not being at the table, right? So I'm not in those meetings where those decisions are made in reference to what type of development is taking place, right? So that's your city council, your city government, your boroughs, your borough leadership, stuff to that nature. So that's a matter of getting actively engaged and involved. Your point is well taken, that is taking place, and that's taking place worldwide. Even in New Orleans, where I reside now, I would say that the median rent, so the average rent here is probably $1,500. And that's post Katrina, where in New Orleans, where you can get an apartment or a place to live for $800, $700 pre-Katrina. Now African Americans, a significant number of them, don't have their $1,500 to pay their rent. And that's not even to own, that's to rent, right? So they don't have their $1,500 plus the amount of bills that come with that from water, electricity, stuff of that nature, right? So they're looking at roughly $2,500. So that is segregating them to the east. And so if you were to travel to New Orleans and you check into your hotels, the people at the front of the hotels will say, do not travel to the east. So they're telling you, do not travel to the Black neighborhoods because that's where the crime is. And that's where all Blacks are segregated because they cannot afford their $1,500 for their rent, right? So what you're describing is taking place across the globe. And I believe it's a matter of us not being in those rooms, having those conversations with those folks. Same thing in Atlanta. If you were to look at Atlanta, when I went to college there, you can live downtown Atlanta for $800 for a 1-bedroom. And that was in a lavish. Now to live in Atlanta, the city, it's roughly $1,500 to $1,700 a month to live in the city proper. So you have white women running their dogs in these environments now where they've output in terms of displaced of the brown and Black folks that cannot afford those areas. So again, I believe that's galvanizing all the churches, community leaders to say, hey, let's have some conversations in reference to this, in reference to try to make some headway with our elected officials. I know that one city that is doing a good job on this in terms of bringing in housing for persons is, and I know that, Iowa is doing this in terms of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as well as Waterloo, Iowa. A significant number of folks were displaced from Chicagoland area, and Chicago is going through the same thing. They moved them to Waterloo, Iowa, as well as Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and they have provided support for those families to get back on their feet in reference to programs and initiatives there in those areas. And again, through the Black Church, Gift of Life Church is one church that's in Waterloo, Iowa, that has assisted families through the leadership of Bishop Brian E. Hill.
Let me also say this. I think the Northeast has a larger problem because you quoting $1,500 to live in the Flux community in Atlanta. Well, you can't even get a room for $1,500 a month in the Northeast, particularly in New York and New Jersey. You're talking about 1-bedroom apartment. It costs you at least $2,000 in a real good place. Challenge I'm having now is that, as is also in this report, is that Black and brown people are moving south. So they are leaving the Northeast. The migration pattern has shifted. In the earlier centuries, they moved to the north. Now in the 21st century, they're moving back south. And some of the politicians of our color is participating in this identification process. So, we tell us to get involved, but some of these politicians have sold out our community because the problem is they don't think, see, you're exceptional. You're a young man, you have your PhD, you went to great schools, but and based upon what I'm hearing, you understand our issues and you have not abandoned your Blackness. But there are a whole lot of people, as educated as you are, they are ashamed to be Black. What do you do with that?
Your points are well taken, and a significant number of Black folks are moving to the South, right? Because it's cheaper to live, as you just explained, right? So why would I not want to live in Atlanta, Georgia, where the mayor is Black, the governor coming in hopefully will be Black. There's Black excellence there, and it's cheap to live, and my money goes much further, right? So a significant number of families are moving to the Deep South. So that's founded, that's in the literature, that's anything you look at, all the data that is occurring. So you're
Let me ask you
definitely correct.
before you move from there, but what makes you think being Black is better for Black people as a whole? Because
Sure.
right now I haven't seen that. I've seen Black politicians who are, and I live in the city of Mount Vernon, New York, 4 square miles, and all our leadership is Black. And gentrification here, and our Black leadership is participating, and now they don't call it affordable housing because that's the bad stigma. They call it workforce housing to the skies for it to be affordable housing. We got this whole new thing, workforce housing, Well, the people who would be in these workforce housing don't want to move in these communities. So they build all of these big, high houses and revert back to the very thing that they said they weren't going to do. And we, people of color, have participated in that. So what made me think having a Black governor, having a Black man, having a Black council, because I have that's better off for Blacks?
Sure. So I can only speak from my lived experience. At 40 years of age, and this is my 14th city, I've never lived in New York City, right? I have family there, but I've only lived in the Deep South, just about, right? So from my lived experience in the Deep South, coming of age in Miami, Florida, going to college in Atlanta, Georgia, there were more opportunities for young folks such as myself and the folks I went to college with who are from New York, but stayed in Atlanta, stayed in South Carolina, stayed in Charlotte, that there a plethora more of opportunities for them there. Like Alicia Thomas Morgan, young Black sister, just ran for State Secretary of Education. Lakeitha Daniels, young Black sister, is like, now she is the chief of staff for the city of DeKalb County. And so these young folks, and I'm not saying that these young folks, from my experience, they have not thrown away their Blackness. The folks that I'm talking about from that I've experienced work with, they are doing yeoman's job for our community, and they're stepping up, just like the mayor of Atlanta, who has decided, hey, I'm not going to run for my next term as mayor. Keisha Lance Bottoms, again, a young Black sister from Atlanta, went to a Black
That was
house.
and that was so disappointing because
Yeah, of
she
course,
really
but
was.
we know why
She
she's
was
not going to run.
emerging.
Yeah, we know why
Yeah,
she's not going to run, because
the
she's done
old guy will come
she's
back.
done as much as she could in the 4 years, and as much as she could, right? So she moved the needle. So she was one of those that did not forget her Blackness. So I don't know, I guess you all should definitely have a conversation with someone that understands New York and understands that the boroughs of New York and the city, I'm not adept in New York and the city of New York and the state of New York. I'm not from there. I did not live there. I visited, of course, family and friends, but I think another conversation should be held with personnel in New York. I'm from the South. I've lived in the South. My family's from South Carolina. I grew up in South Florida. And so my lived experience has been totally different. This is my 14th city. The majority of the cities I've lived in have been in the South. I've also lived in the Northeast, in reference to, I've lived in the Pennsylvania area, outside of Pittsburgh, and I've also lived in the Midwest in terms of Iowa, Michigan area. Even in Michigan, I lived in Grand Rapids. Our elected officials in Michigan, it was the Urban League pushing the agenda. It was a young Black brother, again, from the South, that had a football scholarship to live in the area that we were in. And he and his wife met in college and decided to stay. And they were pushing the agenda there through the Urban League, and they made a significant number of headway there in Grand Rapids. I don't know if you all are familiar with Grand Rapids, Michigan, but it's an interesting city. But the Urban League there and the Black churches made headway there in that city for redistricting and stuff like that. So I hope I answered your question to the best of my ability, but I would say the folks from my lived experience in the South in these leadership roles that we voted them in, right, have not forgotten their Blackness and have stepped up for the Black community from my experience. So, and that's all I can say in reference to that.
Dr. Hilton,
Yes.
I have a question. If Black Lives Matter, and that's so important, why are so many Blacks killing each other?
Sure. I mean, my opinion, so I mean, I'm from Miami, Florida. I'm from an urban community. I grew up with gang violence right down the street from our house. I'm from what's called Miami Gardens, and now it's called Killer Gardens.
Jesus.
So if you have done any research about Miami Gardens, it's now one of the murder capitals in the world. And that's where my mom and dad live on the corner. So that's where I go home every holiday, right? So Miami Gardens is a community that was where Blacks moved when they first came to South Florida. And so now it's where a lot of low-income housing is within that area. So again, I believe, me personally, and this is found in the literature, that Black on Black crime will continue to rise, right? Because we don't have workforce development programs, we're not getting people jobs, and the opportunity costs. So why would I attend college, right? When I can, what we tell our young people in South Florida is that, hey, I want to gain this type of position and role so quickly, and I don't want to go to college. So we send them to the military, or we send them to civil service jobs, become a mailman, become a garbage collector, become a correctional officer, become all these civil service jobs where a college degree is not needed. And then the students go, and then they're not hired, right? So I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm 20 years old. I've graduated high school in South Florida. You tell me get these civil service jobs, but then they're not hiring me. So what else am I going to do? I'm not going to go to the local community college because I don't want to attend school. So I want to get one of these civil service jobs, and then you're not going to hire me. So I meet my community in the streets, and my community in the streets said, hey, you must kill this person for this gang initiation. That's what's taking place where I'm from in South Florida. So it's either I kill this person for this gang initiation so I can have community that will take care of me, since I do not have funds and resources and cannot pay my bills since I'm not working full time, right? Or it's either I live on the streets as a homeless person, right? Or get into some type of social service organization. And then it's a matter of pride. It's cool polls. I don't want to use those services, right? So from my opinion and what I've found and what I've researched is that is what is taking place in a significant number of cities. So again, all these civic organizations and the Black church, what are we doing to assist those young men and women coming out of high school at 18 to say, how can I assist? What can we do for you? What type of programs have we developed? What type of initiatives have we developed? So for instance, my fraternity, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. We have a national program called the Achievement Academy. So, and I'm on that national committee, and I assist with that committee. So when we have student young men graduating from Kappa Alpha Psi, we assist them in getting jobs. We assist them in getting into graduate and professional school. And we also have a Kappa Lead program that when students are in high school that are graduating at 18, we assist them in getting into college, getting scholarship dollars, so they don't fall to the system in that area. That's my opinion, to answer your question.
Okay, and so what does the LGBTQ and is IA or something? Can you just tell me the full definition of that?
Sure, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, ally. Yep.
Ella? Did you say
Yes.
Ella? Okay.
No, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and ally.
Ella. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Hilton, uh, this is Carrie Jones. I live in the city of Newark, and we have the same problem in the city of Newark. We have all our leaderships are Black. I think our city council, besides one, I think it's a Caucasian. And we have a big problem here, too. Even with, yes, they're building in the city of Newark, and a lot of the houses are being built, but they have from other nationalities will come in and buy the property from the city of Newark, and then they put all these little box houses up, and then they end up renting them out for $2,500. I'm talking about one floor for $2,500 a month. They never come around, because they have their own management or everything. And when you look around, that house is deteriorating, the grass is all grown. But this in the city of Newark, it's just so that they don't enforce those things in our leadership. But then you have to pay all this high tax, and you try to go to your council person and everything, and just like nothing is being done. And yes, with the killing, it's a lot of that. It's like they have got comfortable in the Blacks killing each other. They're not out there like way back in the day. They will be out there looking for that person, asking questions. Because I personally have had, or detective said to me, he said to me, well, let the street take care of it. I'm like, what? He said to me, let the street take care of it. And I have a problem with that, because they know when one killing, they're gonna like initiate that person, then they gotta pay back, and the killing just keep going on and on and on. And they have got comfortable with that in the city of Newark. And all I can say, the whole council, our leaderships are all Black. The mayor, we have one Caucasian. Am I right, Mother Noble, that sits on the city council?
Correct. And the governor is white.
Yeah, so it's just terrible.
We sit at the table, but we don't voice our opinion and speak up. And when we do speak up about these issues, they are basically disregarded, in my opinion, if it's not going to benefit them.
Yes.
And you're saying we need representation at the table. We will go to the table, but because we want to kissy, oh, that's my friend and everything, we just let things go. But it shouldn't be that way. And we have so many, every place that you go to, you see so many job opportunities, and you see so many people walking the street and they are not working. And I blame the system, because if you're given a female with one child a Section 8 housing, she rents out 2 rooms because she has a son. She needs at least 2 rooms. So she puts that son in the room with her, and she rents it out to someone else. And then there goes your deterioration. No one puts the garbage out. No one sweeps in front of the home. No one takes the child to school. No one says, no, Johnny, don't do that. Respect your elders. Clean up after yourself. We don't do that. We are afraid to speak to each other. And when we do, and I know the person that just spoke and myself, we are in it, call the head, the mayor, right down to the council. Even had the council people at our church doing functions, have invited them to speak and everything. However, the result is 0. Thank God for you, Dr. Hilton, that is going from city to city and town to town, trying to make a difference, telling us we need to sit at the table, telling us that the church needs to be involved. Before, I was a single parent when my husband and I divorced. My son, 13, 14 years old, How am I going to tell him about manly things? I sent him to the deacon and the pastor of the church. Thank God for Bishop Collie Edwards, who was very compassionate. And they talked to the young boys, having a conversation like the conversation we had previously before you got on. But now it appears to me the men are running and doing their own thing. They don't have time for their sons. They don't have time for their daughters. They don't have time for the women that they're having these children with. They don't have time to clean up and say, we want better. We want better, but we don't want to do better. We want somebody else to do it for us.
So why don't we see what Dr. Hilton, do you have a response to Sister Jones and Mother Noble's comments?
Yes, my response is galvanize and vote those folks out. Galvanize. I mean, so I'm from Miami-Dade County, and we've galvanized and we voted those leaders out that did not support our community, right? When I was a college student at Morehouse as an undergrad student, we galvanized and we got Mayor Shirley Franklin, Black sister, went to a Black college, Howard, in. The students galvanized. We had 15,000 students rally on our campuses and got her elected because we knew that she would support the Black community. She built up the city of Atlanta, essentially. I mean, of course, now she's in the news and the media because Blacks had, she gave, well, they supposedly had bid processes where Blacks received those bids and Blacks made money, and now others are probably challenged and upset that they saw that those things occur. And she mentored young Blacks and put them in positions that can uplift that community. Galvanize the churches, galvanize to say, hey, let's come and vote these folks out. Let's get some candidates in that want to really do the work and move our communities forward. Either the Black churches are going to do it, either these fraternity and sororities are going to do it, or these secret societies, links, boule, guardsmen, girlfriends, secret clubs, either they do it, or if not, it's not going to get done.
Are you sure we're going to have voting rights? They're trying to take that away.
Correct. Again, that's galvanizing these organizations and these items, these organizations to say, hey, who's at the table? Who's in DC? Who's our lobbyists? Who's our individual? Stuff to that nature.
Do you have any Greek? Do you have any Greek blood in you?
Yes, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. but no, your point is well taken about the voting rights, and that's another opportunity to say, who did we elect in these positions, and are they working for us? So as I said, I'm from South Florida, so we have Dr. Frederica Wilson. They call her the Hat Woman. She's on Capitol Hill for us. She started a Black male program, the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence. This Black woman got all these Black men that were living in low-income housing, scholarships to go to college. She got them all mentors within the city. Now it's a model program throughout the nation. This Black woman now is on Capitol Hill working tirelessly for our community in South Florida. So that's what I grew up with, persons such as Frederica Wilson. And so in South Florida, that has worked, where she's worked. Go ahead. Other comments?
I just want to know I am part of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the best fraternity in the world.
Definitely. Friendship is essential to the soul.
That's right.
Yes, definitely. My godfather is an Omega, Leslie Gamble. So yeah.
How in the world did you become a Kappa, Lord Jesus? But that's all right. That's another conversation.
But no, I think there's a headway to be made, and I think there's a lot of work to be done, as we see, of course. But the work can be done with galvanizing your communities and using your students. What are the colleges and universities within your area? What are the Black student unions they're doing? What are the NAACP chapters doing on those college campuses?
Dr. Hilton,
Yes,
it starts in high school.
correct.
I recently experienced a situation with my granddaughter in basically an all-white school. And they tried to flip the script and make it appear that she was the person causing the problem. But the white student wrote a paper saying that Blacks need to be where they are. They do this stuff to themselves. And that's why I'm saying if we cherish Black lives so much, why are we killing each other? And it's not just gang related, it's other issues. I mean, the police kills enough of us. However, we are killing each other on a daily basis. And you know how the police departments report their cases. Some killings they don't report because they don't want to scare the community.
Sure, your point is well taken, and I guess I mean, from my knowledge, of course, Black on Black crime continues, and Black on Black crime is up, and definitely Black on Black crime is up during the pandemic. From my knowledge, from my lived experience, a significant number is tied to gang relations, right? It's not all tied to gang. Some is tied to, hey, in COVID, a significant number of families did not have. So they said, well, let me kill you and get yours, right? So I don't know if you all watching the news, but the same thing is taking place in New Orleans. In New Orleans, it's they're doing Black on Black crime. If you're driving, they carjack you and they kill you. That's what they're doing on a daily basis here. So every time I leave work, I can get carjacked and killed. My colleagues, everyone is saying, don't stay on campus after 5 o'clock, go home. So especially when it shifts to it's dark at 5, same thing. So we've had a significant number of killings here of young Black men that are driving their vehicle, and even young Black women, and that have been carjacked and shot and killed. So your point is well taken.
Where in Atlanta? Is that Atlanta where you are? Oh,
no, this is in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Right. So this is happening on a daily basis here in New Orleans. And of course, you know, I have my own opinions why that's occurring, because I believe those young Black men and women that are doing that do not have job opportunities. So they're doing that to say, hey, let me go ahead and get that vehicle or get that person's wallet or something to that nature, to try to get my next meal. And so let me go ahead and kill that individual. So your point is well taken. Of course, we can go back to segregation to present, to slavery to present, to look at why Black on Black crime is currently taking place. But it is taking place, it is rising. And I still believe that, you know, the Black church must galvanize our elected officials to come down on some crimes. Your point is well taken about also that crime is taking place and some of the police force are not doing anything in reference to it, right? They rather young Black men and women kill themselves in the streets instead of them providing service, or rather them providing care and support for those communities. So I would say, yes, some of that may be taking place. But I would say is that, again, who's the chief of police? What actions are taking place? I know in some parts of Florida, there was some legislation that, hey, one and done or two and done or something to that nature, where if something was to occur and someone killed someone and they were caught and it was allegedly true, then those persons will be incarcerated. So some types of programs are reference to that. Again, I'm not in your area in terms of New Jersey and New York, but some of the same items you're discussing is taking place in New Orleans. I've been here 3 months. I've been in my current role since April 1st. So I'm in a city where it's actually occurring on a daily basis. taking place. We do have a Black mayor who came here from California for college and decided to stay. She did go to a Black college, Xavier. She's married to a Black man, an attorney, and she's working tirelessly to clean up the city of New Orleans. And
Xavier is a great school. Xavier is a great school. And let me ask you a question, because I had some one of my young persons were decided to either go to Xavier or Morehouse, and they opted to go to Morehouse. I'll push for Xavier because I know some people graduate from that school. But let me ask you a question. Xavier's right there in New Orleans. How do they keep that safe and keep the kids away from the auto? How do they do that?
Well, I know they have campus police there. They have New Orleans police force that is present there on that campus. The campus, they also have different opportunities in reference to students not walking on campus alone. They also have residential halls where they're housed. They also have, I believe, a brand new camera system, like we have a brand new camera system here. They also have their opportunities where all the college presidents meet to engage with the city, with the mayor about safety. The mayor is an alum of Xavier, so the mayor is at the table, and the mayor wants these colleges and universities safe. So there are 3 HBCUs here. There's Xavier, there's also Dillard, and there's also Southern University of New Orleans. But you also have the white schools here too. You have Tulane University. You also have Loyola. You also have Our Lady of Lord. So we also have like UNO, University of New Orleans. You have the white schools and the 3 Black schools. So they know that they must keep those campuses safe to keep economic growth.
Isn't Baptist University there too?
I haven't heard of Baptist University, but they know that they must keep these campuses safe to keep students coming to New Orleans to study. So they have put money and manpower into keeping these communities safe, so students can continue to pay their tuition and board and to live here within the New Orleans proper.
I love New Orleans because it has great food there. I mean, great food. The oysters, the best oysters you could find anywhere.
Well, we have 6 minutes left. Is there a last question that anyone wants to ask before we close?
Dr. Hilton, this is not a question. You said Miami Garden. You grew up from Miami Garden?
Yes, it's I was called Miami-Dade, but
Yeah.
now it's called Miami Gardens, and now it's like kindergarten. It's like the worst place to live now in Miami.
Yeah, because my niece just, my niece just ran for city council, Tara Johnson. Tara Johnson, Miami Garden, she ran for city council. And
Okay.
Tara Johnson.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's where I grew up, born and raised. That's where
Yeah.
my parents live. Yep, Miami Gardens, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, right by the Dolphin Stadium.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Hilton. Your information has been invaluable. You have been a blessing to the Middle Atlantic Conference. And on behalf of our Bishop C. Nathan Edwards, who was the one asking you all those questions, he's very pro, things like this, Black Lives Matter, and assisting and helping the Black community. He had a pop-up during the conference to give COVID shots. So we just want to thank you again. He has his email address, not email, website. Is that your website? Let me, hold on.
That's my email address and that's my name and my cell. So if there's anything I can do or someone that I can put you all in touch with, or however you all want to move forward, that's my contact information. Please keep in touch.
Can you send me your Cash App,
Yes,
please?
Sure, I will.
I was just going to ask that. Okay. All right. Dr. Hilton, thank you so much. For those of you, if you see the chat, if you can't, it is ahilton@suno.edu or Adriel Hilton at 305-491-2999. 7125. He is doing amazing things. Check out his website, adrielhilton.com. Is it .com?
Yes.
Okay, adrielhilton.com. It's amazing. Thank you again, Dr. Hilton. We really, truly appreciate your time and sharing with us today.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then that's the Cash App. And that's my name, my personal phone, and then my email. And I wish you all continued success in your journey. And thanks once again for the opportunity.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye now.
God bless. Bye.